Alright, my friends, so it is time for us after we have set up our form, it is time for us to go ahead and use it, right? So we want to know how we are going to use it and how we can get the value from the input and filter our courses with. If you remember when we set up our filtering functionality in the React Forms class, we have told you that in order for you to use a value or to share a value between different places in your component, then you have to use state, all right? Because the value will be set from our input and we are going to use it to filter our array right here. So that's why we need to store it in a place that will be accessible for both of these. So we can set the value from the input and get it from our course list. Make sense? Redux make this very simple. This whole idea of storing a value and make it accessible for more than one component. But we want to understand how this is really gonna be done. Right? So we have two options. Either to go and set the value first, or we want to retrieve it first. Doesn't really matter. In our case, I'm gonna take the second path, which is to get to retrieve the value, then we are gonna set it. So if we open our reducers right here, what we are going to do, we are going to use this thing right here, all right, our course list, to modify our array, which is the courses right here, then retrieve it back to our state. But how we are going to do that? We are going to do that using actions, all right? So let's go ahead and open our actions. Here we know we need to define an action, and remember, actions are just JavaScript objects. All right, so action, it's a JavaScript object, but we cannot define it like this. There is a specific way that we want to define our actions with. First of all, we need to create a function, and this function called action creator. So we have action creator. This is the first thing that you need to do, which it is, and it's a function, all right? And this function going to return for us, it will return an object, all right? So we have an action creator, which is a function, and it's going to return an object, which is an action. Make sense? So we have action as well as action creator, right? So let me simulate that. So I'm going to put here on the top, and here I'm going to define a function which will be the action creator. All right, so function, and I'm just going to call, cannot call it function. I have to call it search courses. All right, this is the function. All right, like this. So we have our action creator. This is not the action, this is the action creator. We are going to use it to return an object, which will be the action. So I'm gonna return an object, it is the action. And you have to know something about the actions. Actions must have a type of property. It is required, you should add it, it is must. All right, otherwise your action will throw an error, because action in Redux must has a type of property. Why is that? Because if we open the final result right here, there are tons of actions that will happen on the screen in your web browser by your users. For example, the search action, add to save action, or remove from save action. So all these are actions. How do we know which action was fired on the screen? We are going to use the type of property. So the type of property exist just to identify which action was fired on the web browser. So we have to set the type right here. So I'm just gonna say type equal to any name that you want to specify, but just give it a name that will describe the action. For example, in my case, I'm just gonna say search underscore courses, all in uppercase. All right, this is just what we use by convention. It is the most popular approach, that we name the action or the type action in uppercase letters, and we give it a descriptive name. Things like search courses, add item, remove item. All right, makes sense? Here is the first action, which is a search courses. All right, now we want to call the search courses whenever gonna be an on change on this input, right? So what we want to do, once the user types something here in the input, we want to go ahead and fire this action. All right, so we want to connect first of all the course form to Redux so we can access our action. All right, then we want to define our on change on the input and call the search courses on it. So it is very simple. So first of all, let's go ahead and do the stuff that we already know. So in my input, I'm just gonna say on change, it is equal to this thing right here. What we want to do, we want to go ahead and define our function. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm gonna create an inline arrow function. This is something maybe it's new for you, but let's talk about it because it is also has a common use cases, so you can be aware of it. So here I have my my on change, and I want to call an arrow function instead of calling a function that I'm going to create myself. So let me show you. We can give it like this. So this is the parentheses for the arrow function, like that. And here we can call any function that we want. How easy is that? So it is a better approach. It's a very simple approach. And since the on change will receive the event parameter, so we can get it like this. All right. And here we can call any function that we want. In our case, we are going to call the search courses action. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. Thank you, my friends, so much for watching. In the next video, we are going to connect the course form to Redux, as well as calling our search courses action. So see you in the next one.